History is filled with stories we think we understand, until we don't. Hidden in the shadows of time are events that defy explanation, artifacts that seem impossible, and disappearances that remain unsolved. Who built structures that shouldn't have existed? Why do certain events leave questions that echo across centuries? And what truths have been quietly erased from our records? Over the next 2 hours, we'll journey through the most baffling enigmas history has ever produced. Moments that surprised scholars, challenged facts, and left the world questioning everything. Step closer and let the mysteries begin. Rising from the terraced hills of the Sacred Valley, the walls of Ollantaytambo loom like silent sentinels of a long-forgotten era. Massive stones, some weighing dozens of tons, are fitted together with a precision that defies conventional understanding. Sunlight shifts across the carved surfaces, revealing grooves and contours that seem almost deliberate, as if the walls themselves are meant to communicate secrets lost to time. The air here is heavy with the echoes of the past, a place where the hum of history seems almost tangible, pressing against the present in ways that demand contemplation. Archaeologists date the site's construction to the 15th century, crediting the Inca with the engineering feats that brought these stones into alignment. The Incas, known for their mastery of terracing and hydraulic systems, carved a living city from the mountainside, blending function with spiritual symbolism. Yet, even the most detailed surveys leave lingering questions. How were stones weighing up to 50 tons transported with tools that seem, by today's standards, rudimentary? How did the builders achieve such perfect joins, with edges so tight that even a blade cannot pass between them? These questions echo through the narrow streets and overgrown terraces, as if the mountain itself is keeping its secrets. Some historians point to practical explanations, a combination of human ingenuity, sheer manpower, and sophisticated knowledge of geometry and leverage. But others have noted anomalies that seem harder to reconcile with conventional theories. Certain stones bear marks and alignments that suggest a level of understanding in astronomy or geodesy that borders on the extraordinary. Could the builders have possessed knowledge that was lost to subsequent generations? Or were they guided by intuition, a deep understanding of the land, and techniques passed down through countless unrecorded generations? Adding to the intrigue is the placement of the fortress itself. Nestled at a strategic point overlooking the valley, Ollantaytambo was more than a ceremonial site. It was a defensive stronghold, yet its walls do not just rise. They curve, interlock, and terrace in patterns that hint at an aesthetic vision as complex as its practical purpose. Could the design have been influenced by external knowledge, traveling across the vast landscapes of ancient civilizations? Comparisons have been drawn with megalithic structures far beyond the Andes, raising the possibility that universal architectural principles or even shared ancient knowledge may have played a role. Visitors often report a peculiar sense of resonance when walking along the massive stones, a sensation some describe as almost electrical, as if the walls themselves remember the hands that shaped them. While science cannot yet quantify this feeling, it fuels speculation about the site's original purpose. Was Ollantaytambo purely a fortress, or did it also serve a spiritual or energetic function, connecting its inhabitants with the forces of the mountains, the sun, and the stars? Ancient myths speak of Ollantay, a warrior and leader whose story is entwined with the site. Are the legends purely symbolic, or do they hold kernels of historical truth, encrypted in tales and architecture alike? Even maps of the region reveal patterns that provoke further wonder. The positioning of Ollantaytambo in relation to other significant sites in the Sacred Valley forms lines and angles that some researchers argue align with solstices or celestial events. Others caution that such alignments may be coincidental. artifacts of retrospective interpretation. Yet the mind cannot help but linger on the possibility that there is more here than meets the eye, that each stone and terrace might be part of a greater hidden plan, a language of stone that speaks across centuries. As the sun sets behind the towering Andes, shadows stretch across the terraces, highlighting each wall's subtle irregularities and perfect fits. The air cools, carrying whispers of a civilization that mastered mountains and memory alike. Ollantaytambo stands both as a testament to human skill and a puzzle that refuses to be fully solved. How much did the Incas know, and how much remains buried in the earth and the collective memory of this sacred place? The walls themselves offer no answers, only the patient invitation to wonder what might still lie hidden, waiting for those who seek it. As the sun dips behind the peaks of the Andes, leaving Ollantaytambo's terraces to fade into shadow, our journey moves from the open heights of ancient engineering to a quiet, almost sacred darkness, a place where time seems suspended beneath the earth. Hidden beneath layers of soil and stone, the tomb of the Crimson Queen rests, a silent witness to a civilization that flourished and disappeared in the dense jungles of Mesoamerica. Unlike the monumental walls of Ollantaytambo, here the story is whispered, not shouted, encoded in the artifacts, the skeletal remains, and the astonishing preservation that greets those who dare to descend into this underground chamber. Discovered in the mid-1990s by a team of Mexican archaeologists led by Sergio Gomez, the Crimson Queen's tomb lies within the ancient city of Palenque, a Maya site renowned for its architecture, inscriptions, and artistry. The burial chamber, deep beneath the Temple of the Inscriptions, had been carefully sealed for over a millennium, protecting a body adorned in intricate jewelry, a headdress tinged with cinnabar, and ceremonial garments dyed a deep red, hence the name, the Crimson Queen. Carbon dating places the tomb's occupant in the first half of the 1st century AD, suggesting she held a significant role in the Maya hierarchy, possibly as a ruler, priestess, or figure of sacred lineage. Yet as scholars have examined the tomb, the questions have multiplied faster than the answers. The preservation of the remains is extraordinary, with the skull and bones almost intact despite the humid jungle climate. What methods did the Maya use to ensure such longevity? Some suggest a combination of resin, cinnabar, and natural burial practices, while others wonder if techniques now lost to history may have played a role, sophisticated methods that hint at a deeper understanding of human preservation. How could an ancient civilization, separated by centuries from modern science, achieve such results without leaving detailed written instructions? The artifacts themselves invite further contemplation. Jade masks, ceremonial pendants, and intricately carved bones rest alongside the Crimson Queen, each piece telling a fragment of her story. The artistry is undeniable, yet some features appear almost anomalous. Certain carvings seem to depict iconography not widely recognized in the broader Maya corpus, leading a few researchers to speculate on contact with distant cultures, unrecorded rituals, or influences from regions that remain largely unmapped in Maya studies. Could the tomb contain evidence of exchanges between civilizations that have long been assumed isolated? Or are these stylistic deviations simply the personal expression of a remarkable ruler, preserved for eternity? One of the most compelling mysteries lies in the structure of the tomb itself. Unlike typical burial chambers of the era, this chamber is both compact and labyrinthine, with narrow passageways and concealed niches that suggest a meticulous design intended to protect something precious. Could the layout serve a ceremonial purpose, guiding the soul of the deceased through a symbolic journey to the underworld? Or was it a purely practical decision, a method to safeguard a ruler's remains from potential looters and rivals? The Maya left inscriptions elsewhere in Palenque that speak of life, death, and cosmic cycles, but the chamber itself offers no explanations, only the silence of stone and soil. Adding to the intrigue is the presence of cinnabar, a mercury-based pigment, coating parts of the skeleton. Known to the Maya for its vivid red hue and ritual significance, cinnabar also has preservative qualities. Yet the quantity found in the tomb surpasses what scholars consider typical, prompting questions about both symbolism and methodology. Was the use of cinnabar purely ceremonial, meant to signify power, life, or rebirth? Or did the Maya recognize its preservative potential, applying it with a precision that suggests empirical knowledge of chemical properties long before such principles were formally understood? Some researchers have proposed even more speculative ideas. The unusual cranial features of the remains, combined with artifacts that appear atypical for the era, have fueled hypotheses about foreign influence, genetic anomalies, or even lost branches of knowledge, possibilities that are tantalizing but unproven. The tomb, after all, yields only fragments, a few bones, delicate jewelry, and the enigmatic layout of the chamber. Each piece invites interpretation, yet none delivers a definitive answer. The further archaeologists probe, the more the tomb seems to resist finality, leaving the story of the Crimson Queen suspended between history and legend. Even the inscriptions in the surrounding Temple of the Inscriptions add layers of ambiguity. Carved glyphs speak of rulers, battles, and cosmic cycles, yet their connection to this particular tomb is far from clear. Are these records meant to memorialize the occupant, or do they recount broader events of Palenque's political and spiritual life? Some glyphs suggest alliances and conflicts with distant polities, yet the geographic details remain elusive, leaving room for debate about the extent of Maya influence and contact. Could there have been connections reaching as far as lands now mapped as Palestine, Egypt, or other distant centers of civilization? Or are we seeing patterns that modern observers are compelled to read into history, our curiosity bridging the gaps left by incomplete records? Descending into the tomb, one cannot help but feel the weight of centuries pressing down, a quiet testament to human ambition, belief, and ingenuity. The Crimson Queen's tomb is more than a burial site. It is a portal to questions about life, death, and the knowledge our ancestors held. Every carved stone, every bead, and every trace of pigment invites speculation, yet the tomb speaks in riddles rather than answers. How much of the past remains deliberately concealed, and how much has simply faded with time? Could there be chambers still undiscovered, containing artifacts or remains that would transform our understanding of Maya civilization? As we step back from the chamber into the humid daylight of the jungle, the Crimson Queen remains both present and absent, a figure whose life and death continue to intrigue, puzzle, and inspire awe. The tomb does not surrender its secrets easily, and perhaps that is precisely its point. In the silent watch of the jungle, one is left with a single profound realization. History is never fully told, and some mysteries, like the Crimson Queen herself, may endure far beyond the reach of time. As we leave the dense jungles of Mesoamerica and the crimson shadows of the Queen's tomb behind, our journey now crosses oceans and centuries, arriving at a mist-shrouded island off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada. Oak Island rises from the Atlantic with a deceptive serenity, small, forested, and seemingly unremarkable. Yet beneath its tranquil surface lies a puzzle that has confounded treasure hunters, historians, and engineers for over 2 centuries. The island's soft soil, dotted with swamps and depressions, conceals an intricate network of man-made tunnels and shafts, most famously the enigmatic Money Pit, a structure that has tantalized those who seek its secrets and frustrated those who have dared to unlock them. The story of Oak Island begins in 1795, when a young man named Daniel McGinnis noticed a depression in the ground, surrounded by a circle of oak trees. Digging beneath the soil, he and his companions discovered a layer of flagstones, followed by wooden platforms spaced at regular intervals, layers upon layers, carefully constructed. What was initially thought to be a simple buried cache soon revealed a level of sophistication that suggested far more than a casual concealment. Since that first discovery, dozens of excavations have attempted to unravel the pit's secrets, employing the latest technology of their times, from hand tools to modern drilling rigs. Yet the results remain tantalizingly elusive. Historical records suggest that Oak Island may have been modified over centuries, with some researchers tracing its origins to the late 1700s and others proposing far earlier activity, perhaps even by transatlantic travelers. The regularity of the construction, the presence of wooden platforms, and the appearance of stone markers hint at knowledge and intent that exceed the capabilities of casual diggers. Why would anyone go to such lengths to bury an object, or objects, so deeply, surrounded by water and layers designed to flood the shafts at specific intervals? Theories abound, blending documented history with speculation. Some historians point to pirates and privateers, notorious along the Atlantic coast, as likely architects, suggesting that loot from shipwrecks or stolen treasures could have been concealed in the pit. Others propose a connection to the Knights Templar, linking Oak Island to global legends of hidden sacred artifacts and secret knowledge. Could the island be guarding treasures of historical or religious significance, perhaps items whose existence has been erased from conventional records? Even the idea that the pit could hold manuscripts, religious relics, or evidence of ancient transoceanic contact has been floated, though none of these claims have been conclusively proven. Archaeological investigations reveal puzzling details. Layers of coconut fiber, impossible to have been native to Nova Scotia, suggest materials imported from afar. Flood tunnels, carefully engineered trenches that channel water into the pit during excavation, point to a knowledge of hydraulics that was advanced for the era of the first known digs. Could these features have been designed by people familiar with engineering principles lost to modern understanding? Or might they have been the work of multiple generations, each building upon the work of predecessors, creating a puzzle intended to withstand centuries? Despite countless attempts, no definitive treasure has been recovered. Instead, the pit continues to reveal tantalizing clues: bits of timber, stone artifacts, a few small coins, and the occasional inscribed fragment, all of which hint at human presence, ingenuity, and intent, but stop short of providing clarity. This scarcity of conclusive evidence is perhaps the most compelling part of the Oak Island mystery. It forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge, the fragility of human memory, and the enduring power of legend. Adding to the mystery are the deaths and misfortunes that have accompanied the excavation of the island. Over the past 2 centuries, at least 6 individuals have died in pursuit of the pit's secrets, and countless others have faced financial ruin, reinforcing a perception of the site as a place of danger and enigma. Some have interpreted this as coincidence, a reflection of the hazards inherent in unearthing ancient, waterlogged shafts. Others see it as a more profound warning, a remnant of the island's designers' intent to guard their secrets with both ingenuity and, perhaps, risk. Speculation has even extended beyond historical and archaeological contexts. Could Oak Island's tunnels conceal evidence of pre-Columbian transatlantic contact, perhaps visitors from distant civilizations who brought knowledge and treasures from across the ocean? Certain researchers have drawn comparisons between the island's subterranean engineering and construction techniques found in far-flung locations, suggesting universal principles of problem-solving and secrecy. While such theories remain controversial, they cannot be dismissed entirely. The precision and complexity of the money pit demand explanation. Geology itself adds another layer of intrigue. The pit has been found to intersect layers of hard rock, clay, and sand, sometimes ending abruptly or collapsing, and at times revealing organic materials that are thousands of years old. Could the original diggers have anticipated geological shifts, or were they simply extraordinarily lucky, designing a structure that would both confound and preserve over centuries? Even the age of some deposits suggests human activity that predates the earliest recorded diggers, raising further questions about who first shaped Oak Island and for what purpose. Modern excavations have introduced metal detectors, ground-penetrating radar, and 3D mapping, yet these advanced tools have yielded fragments rather than answers. Some scans suggest chambers hidden beneath layers of sediment. Others detect anomalies that may indicate non-natural formations. The tantalizing glimpses of potential chambers stir the imagination. Could they conceal treasure chests, sacred texts, or artifacts that rewrite portions of known history? Or are they simply the remnants of natural geological processes, misinterpreted by eager investigators? The ambiguity itself has become a central character in the story of Oak Island. And then there are the legends that color our understanding of the island. Tales of buried gold, religious relics, pirate caches, and lost manuscripts have circulated for generations, often amplified by treasure-hunting families and popular media. Yet beneath the sensationalism lies a persistent truth. Oak Island is a puzzle whose solution has eluded even the most determined seekers. Each dig, each discovery, adds another layer to the narrative, deepening the mystery rather than resolving it. As the wind sweeps across the island's forested terrain, carrying the briny scent of the Atlantic, one cannot ignore the sense of time pressing down in layers, both literal and metaphorical. Oak Island is not just a physical location. It is a testament to human curiosity, ambition, and the enduring appeal of the unknown. Its tunnels, shafts, and chambers speak in silence, inviting the observer to wonder what may lie beneath, hidden from view, yet waiting to be uncovered. Are we chasing the tangible remains of human greed and ingenuity, or are we pursuing something far more elusive, a connection to the past that transcends our recorded history? The Money Pit, the so-called X-file of archaeology, remains unfinished, unresolved, a mystery that bridges centuries. Each layer of soil removed, each artifact uncovered, seems only to deepen the enigma. As daylight fades over Oak Island, leaving its dense forests and concealed shafts bathed in shadow, one is left with the same questions that have haunted treasure hunters for generations. What truly lies beneath the surface? Who first dug here, and why? And could the ultimate secret of Oak Island remain buried, waiting for a future generation to unlock its carefully concealed truths? From the fog-drenched forests and concealed shafts of Oak Island, our journey now moves across time and continent to the frozen plains of Eastern Europe, where history's intrigue intertwines with the tragedy of a single man whose death continues to provoke debate centuries later. The year is 1718, and the setting is the small fortress town of Fredrikstad in Norway. Nestled against steep cliffs and encircled by defensive walls, Fredrikstad is a quiet, almost unassuming outpost. Yet it would soon become the final stage for one of history's most enduring mysteries: the death of King Charles XII of Sweden. Charles XII, often remembered as the Warrior King, was a ruler whose life was defined by conflict, ambition, and remarkable military strategy. By the time he reached Fredrikstad, he had spent decades embroiled in the Great Northern War, leading campaigns across Poland, Russia, and the Baltic territories. Known for his unyielding discipline and relentless pursuit of victory, Charles XII had become both admired and feared, a figure whose presence on the battlefield could shift the course of nations. Yet in the midst of this military campaign, at the height of his power, his life ended abruptly, leaving a question that has never been fully answered. The night of November 30th, 1718, was bitterly cold, with winds slicing through the fortifications of Frederickston. Accounts suggest that Charles XII was inspecting his troops when a sudden shot rang out. He fell, struck by a projectile to the head, and died almost instantly. The immediate question arises: from where did the fatal shot originate? Contemporary records indicate that he was positioned near the front lines, close enough to see enemy fortifications, but no eyewitness could definitively identify the source. Was it a bullet fired by a Norwegian soldier from the opposing ranks, a sniper positioned at a distance, or an idea that would ignite speculation for centuries, an assassin from within his own ranks? Historians have examined the circumstances meticulously. Ballistics analyses, both historical and modern, have attempted to reconstruct the trajectory of the fatal shot. Early reports suggested a musket ball, fired from outside the fortress walls. Later examinations, including exhumations of the king's remains in the early 20th century, raised new questions. Certain studies noted inconsistencies in the entry wound, while forensic analyses suggested possibilities ranging from a direct shot to a ricochet. Could the bullet have been fired from the enemy, or might it have come from the inside, a conspiracy carried out by those closest to the king? Political intrigue thickens the narrative. Charles XII was known to have enemies not only abroad, but within his own court. Sweden was exhausted by decades of continuous war, and factions within the military and government may have grown resentful of the king's relentless campaigns and strict discipline. Was his death a simple act of wartime fortune, or the result of internal plotting, a silent hand removing a ruler whose ambition had become dangerous to those around him? Letters, memoirs, and court documents from the period hint at tensions, though none provide definitive proof. The absence of conclusive evidence is itself a puzzle, inviting speculation across generations. Even the king's behavior in the days leading up to his death adds nuance to the mystery. Charles XII was known for his fearlessness, often placing himself in positions that most generals would have avoided. Did he underestimate the danger, trusting only in his own skill and courage, or was he aware of unseen threats and deliberately courting fate? Some historians argue that his daring nature, bordering on recklessness, made his death almost inevitable, a tragic consequence of a life lived on the edge. Yet this explanation, though plausible, does not fully address the peculiarities surrounding the trajectory of the shot or the inconsistencies in contemporary accounts. Scientific studies have added layers of intrigue. In the early 21st century, Swedish researchers re-examined the king's skull using modern forensic technology. Their analyses suggested that the bullet may have come from a low angle, raising the possibility of a shot fired by someone inside the fortress, rather than the enemy lines. Other studies have contested this conclusion, arguing that environmental factors such as the slope of the terrain, wind conditions, and the king's own movements could have altered the trajectory. The conflicting interpretations illustrate the difficulty of reconstructing an event that happened more than 3 centuries ago, where the available evidence is fragmentary and sometimes contradictory. Then there are the legends and alternative theories, which have flourished precisely because of these gaps in the historical record. Some speculate that Charles XII was assassinated by a trusted aide, while others suggest that Norwegian marksmen, armed with superior knowledge of the fortress's defenses, executed a precise, almost premeditated strike. A more controversial idea even proposes that the king's death was part of a larger international conspiracy involving rival powers anxious to see Sweden's aggressive expansion curtailed. Each theory, while tantalizing, remains speculative, yet the persistence of these ideas underscores the enduring fascination with the circumstances of his death. The king's final moments, as recorded in letters, journals, and later histories, are hauntingly vivid. Witnesses describe soldiers gathering around, the sudden silence after the shot, and the shock of those who had seen him charge fearlessly into battle countless times before. In the stillness that followed, questions multiplied. Who was responsible? Was it fate, war, or betrayal? The fortress, which had stood for generations, seemed to absorb the mystery, guarding its secret as rigorously as it had once defended the king against external enemies. Even today, the physical remnants of Frederikston bear quiet witness. The walls, the trenches, and the vantage points continue to invite study, yet they reveal nothing definitive. Historical reenactments and forensic experiments attempt to recreate the conditions, but each new investigation seems only to deepen the enigma. How could one small, precise shot claim the life of a monarch in full command of his surroundings? And why has evidence remained so elusive despite centuries of inquiry? As the winter wind sweeps through the fortress, brushing against stone and memory alike, the death of Charles XII remains suspended between history and speculation. His tomb, and the accounts of those who served him, preserve the narrative of a ruler who defined an era, yet whose life was cut short in a manner that resists full explanation. We are left with the image of a king, fearless and resolute, felled by a single projectile, a moment frozen in time, surrounded by uncertainty. Perhaps the true mystery is not only in the mechanics of his death, but in the questions it raises about human nature, ambition, and the fragility of power. Was Charles XII a victim of circumstance, a casualty of the chaos of war? Or was there something more deliberate, a hidden hand shaping the final chapter of a life lived in relentless pursuit of victory? As historians, scientists, and curious minds continue to examine the evidence, the death of Sweden's warrior king endures as a puzzle, one that refuses to yield its secrets fully. Standing before the fortress today, amid the cold winds and centuries of memory, it is impossible not to wonder. How much of history's most tantalizing mysteries are hidden in plain sight, waiting for those patient enough to uncover them? And how many truths, like the trajectory of that fatal shot, remain forever just beyond our grasp, challenging us to question what we think we know about the past? From the cold winds of Frederikston Fortress and the frozen finality of Charles XII's last moments, our journey now turns southward, across continents, to a world that is alive with the pulse of green and the hum of unseen rivers. The Amazon rainforest stretches as far as the eye can see, a seemingly endless expanse of dense jungle, winding waterways, and towering canopies. Beneath its verdant cover, however, lie traces of a past long forgotten, remnants of human civilizations that once thrived here, shaping the land in ways we are only now beginning to understand. For centuries, the Amazon was viewed as an inhospitable wilderness, home to scattered indigenous groups, yet incapable of supporting large, complex settlements. Early European explorers reported encountering villages and small communities, but these observations did little to suggest the scale of what lay hidden. It was only with the advent of modern technologies, including LiDAR mapping and satellite imagery, that the extraordinary scope of human activity in the region began to reveal itself. Suddenly, what was thought to be impenetrable jungle was shown to conceal geometric structures, roadways, plazas, and entire settlements that challenge long-held assumptions about pre-Columbian life in the Americas. These discoveries have forced scholars to reconsider the history of the Amazon. Large ceremonial centers, surrounded by concentric ditches and earthen walls, suggest that thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, once lived in organized, structured communities. Straight roads, aligned over kilometers, hint at planning on a scale previously attributed only to civilizations like the Maya or the Andean empires. Could such achievements have existed here, in an environment once dismissed as marginal for complex society? The evidence seems undeniable. The Amazon was not an untouched wilderness. It was a landscape cultivated, engineered, and carefully managed by people whose ingenuity rivaled that of any ancient civilization. Archaeologists have uncovered earthen mounds, often referred to as geoglyphs, that form intricate patterns visible only from above. Some are circular, others rectangular, and all seem to follow precise mathematical and astronomical alignments. What purpose did these shapes serve? Were they ceremonial, astronomical, or markers of social or political hierarchy? Scholars debate their function, but the effort required to create such patterns is extraordinary, suggesting that the people who built them had both time and organizational skill, and perhaps knowledge now lost to us. Yet the mysteries deepen when we consider the tools available to these societies. The Amazonian peoples lacked iron or steel, and yet they moved earth, cut timber, and carved stone with precision that defies casual explanation. How did they coordinate labor, transport materials, and achieve feats that modern observers can barely replicate under such conditions? Could these constructions indicate a level of social complexity and technological understanding far beyond what traditional historical models allow? And if so, what knowledge has been lost, buried beneath centuries of soil, sediment, and forest growth? The discoveries do not end with earthworks. Archaeologists have also uncovered evidence of terra preta, rich, black soil created by human intervention, composed of charcoal, organic waste, and minerals. This Amazonian dark earth suggests a sophisticated understanding of agriculture, capable of sustaining dense populations in regions otherwise considered nutrient-poor. Was this soil management widespread, supporting large urban centers long before European contact? If so, how many cities, roads, and monuments remain undiscovered, swallowed by centuries of jungle growth? Each excavation reveals tantalizing hints, yet the full picture remains elusive, hidden beneath layers of foliage and mystery. Some researchers speculate that these hidden cities could be linked to lost civilizations mentioned in indigenous oral histories, kingdoms and peoples whose existence was dismissed as legend until the ground itself began to tell a different story. Could the Amazon have been home to powerful states, thriving in ways comparable to Egypt, Mesopotamia, or the empires of the Andes? The possibility challenges the traditional narrative of isolated small-scale societies in the region, replacing it with one of complexity, innovation, and cultural richness. The role of water in shaping these cities adds another layer of intrigue. Many settlements appear to be strategically located along rivers and streams, suggesting advanced knowledge of hydraulics, flood management, and transportation. Canals and raised platforms hint at methods to control seasonal flooding, protect crops, and ensure connectivity between communities. Was this sophisticated infrastructure the key to sustaining dense populations in a rainforest environment, allowing them to thrive in a region long considered marginal? And if so, why did these cities eventually vanish, leaving only traces buried beneath centuries of regrowth? The human element of these discoveries is equally compelling. Skeletal remains, ceramics, and tools reveal societies rich in culture and ritual, yet details about governance, belief systems, and daily life remain fragmented. Inscriptions or carvings, rare and often partially eroded, suggest complex symbolic systems. Could these symbols indicate religious practices, astronomical knowledge, or even a form of written language that we have yet to decipher? Each artifact tells a story, yet the story is incomplete, offering glimpses into a civilization that, while advanced, remains largely invisible to conventional history. Speculative theories abound. Some suggest connections between the Amazonian geoglyphs and distant civilizations, proposing transoceanic contact long before European colonization. Others argue that the cities were centers of trade, spirituality, or astronomical observation, linking the rainforest to a broader network of knowledge spanning continents. While concrete evidence remains limited, the very possibility expands our understanding of what human ingenuity could accomplish in environments previously thought inhospitable. Even the landscape itself seems to guard its secrets. Thick canopy, hidden rivers, and shifting terrain conceal structures that aerial surveys are only beginning to reveal. Each expedition uncovers new formations, yet the jungle reclaims them rapidly, erasing signs of human intervention as if determined to keep the past concealed. How many cities, roads, and plazas remain invisible, buried beneath layers of soil and vegetation? How much of the Amazon's history remains unrecorded, waiting for the tools, time, and insight necessary to reveal it? The hidden cities of the Amazon compel a reconsideration of human potential, adaptation, and resilience. They ask us to question assumptions about the capabilities of ancient peoples and the environments in which they thrived. Were these communities exceptional anomalies, or part of a broader, sophisticated civilization whose remnants have simply been swallowed by the forest? Each discovery challenges our preconceptions, revealing a past that is more complex, organized, and enigmatic than previously imagined. As sunlight filters through the towering trees, illuminating faint outlines of earthworks, one cannot help but feel the weight of history pressing against the present. The Amazon is both a sanctuary and a puzzle, its mysteries whispered through the leaves and rivers. The hidden cities, whether fully unearthed or still waiting to be discovered, remind us that the world holds secrets beyond our current understanding, encoded in the very landscape itself. What other civilizations, what other stories, have been erased by time yet linger silently beneath the canopy, awaiting those who dare to seek them? From the dense whispering canopies of the Amazon, where hidden cities lie buried beneath centuries of foliage, our journey now travels across continents and millennia to the sun-baked plains of Upper Egypt. Here, near the west bank of the Nile, stand two massive statues, weathered and monumental, casting long shadows over the surrounding desert, the Colossi of Memnon. These towering figures, each over 60 feet tall and carved from blocks of quartzite sandstone, transported from quarries miles away, guard the site of what was once the mortuary temple of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, constructed in the 14th century BC. Their sheer size is arresting, but it is the mystery surrounding them that has fascinated visitors for centuries. Even from a distance, the Colossi dominate the landscape. Their massive forms are eerily lifelike, the pharaoh's serene expression frozen in time, the symmetry of the statues imposing a sense of eternal authority. Yet, over the centuries, the statues have suffered the relentless wear of wind, sand, and the Nile's shifting soil, leaving deep cracks and fissures that hint at both fragility and endurance. For the ancients, however, the Colossi were not simply monuments. They were enigmatic sentinels capable of producing sounds that confounded even the most devout observers. The first accounts of this phenomenon come from Greek and Roman travelers around 27 BC. The Colossi were said to sing or emit a musical tone at dawn, a sound some described as a celestial voice rising from the statues themselves. Strabo, the Greek geographer, recorded the phenomenon with fascination, noting that locals believed the sound was the voice of Memnon, a hero of myth who was mourned by the gods for his death in battle. For centuries, pilgrims and scholars alike traveled to witness this strange occurrence, reporting both awe and fear at the eerie, ethereal sound that emerged from stone. Modern investigations suggest that the sound was likely the result of thermal expansion, as rising morning temperatures caused cracks in the sandstone to shift, producing a whistling or booming tone. Yet the mystery is far from fully explained. Not all mornings produce the sound, and variations in humidity, wind, and temperature seem to affect its occurrence. Ancient descriptions also differ, some noting a human-like voice, others a trumpet-like resonance. Could it be that the Colossi themselves were constructed with an awareness of acoustics, designed to interact with the elements in ways we are only beginning to understand? Or was the phenomenon purely coincidental, a natural quirk amplified by human imagination and reverence? Beyond the sound, the Colossi are remarkable for their construction and history. Each statue was carved from a single block of sandstone transported from quarries near modern-day Cairo, a feat of engineering that required immense planning and labor. How did workers move such enormous stones over distances of more than 400 miles without the benefit of modern machinery? Ancient Egyptians were known for their ingenuity, using sledges, rollers, and lubricated tracks, yet the Colossi remain a testament to human skill that continues to awe scholars and engineers alike. Historical texts indicate that the Colossi originally flanked the entrance to Amenhotep III's mortuary temple, a vast complex now largely destroyed by time and the shifting Nile. This temple was one of the largest of its era, serving as a ceremonial center for worship and a demonstration of pharaonic power. But why have these two statues endured when the temple itself has vanished? Was their survival intentional, a deliberate choice to immortalize the pharaoh in stone, or merely a fortunate accident of geology and climate? The persistence of these statues through earthquakes, floods, and centuries of human interference adds a layer of enigma to their story. Speculation has also extended to their symbolic meaning. Some researchers argue that the Colossi were designed not only as guardians, but as representations of cosmic order, linking the pharaoh to the gods and the eternal cycles of the Nile. Others suggest that their positioning, aligned with sunrise on certain dates, could indicate astronomical knowledge or ritual significance lost to time. Could the Colossi themselves have been part of a larger, more sophisticated system of symbolic architecture, encoding knowledge about religion, governance, or the cosmos within their proportions and placement? The historical record is further complicated by later interventions. In 27 BC, a significant earthquake caused a massive fissure in the northern statue, which some scholars suggest may have contributed to the phenomenon of the singing stone. Repairs were attempted by Roman emperors, including Septimius Severus and Caracalla, yet even these efforts could not fully restore the statue's original form or the mystery surrounding it. Each crack and restoration becomes part of the story, adding layers of human interaction to the natural processes that shaped the Colossi over millennia. Even today, the statues inspire awe and curiosity. Tourists, archaeologists, and mystics alike come to witness the Colossi, to feel the weight of their history, and to wonder at the interplay between human ambition and natural forces. Advanced imaging technologies and ground-penetrating radar have revealed additional features at the base of the statues, including subsurface cavities and remnants of the temple complex. Yet these discoveries only deepen the questions. Were the Colossi part of an even larger ceremonial landscape, now hidden beneath centuries of sand and sediment? What knowledge might have been encoded in their placement, scale, and orientation? In addition to the mystery of their origin, there are also strange variations in the design of the ruts themselves. While most of the ruts are parallel, some seem to intersect or curve in unusual ways. In certain places, the ruts appear to split or even form intricate patterns that defy explanation. These oddities have led some researchers to speculate that the cart ruts were not the work of a single culture or period, but rather a series of different civilizations, each leaving their mark on the landscape. Could it be that the ruts were created over a span of centuries or even millennia, with each new culture adding its own unique style or purpose to the network? Equally puzzling is the fact that many of the ruts lead to seemingly unimportant or barren areas, with no obvious connection to settlements or temples. Why would such a vast network of pathways be constructed, only to lead to remote or isolated places? Could the ruts have served a symbolic purpose, perhaps pointing to hidden or sacred locations known only to the initiates of a particular cult or religious order? As with many ancient mysteries, the true purpose of the Maltese cart ruts remains an enigma. Some argue that we may never fully understand their significance, as the knowledge that once surrounded them may have been lost to time. Perhaps the key to unraveling the mystery lies not in the ruts themselves, but in the larger context of the culture that created them. What does this mysterious network of pathways tell us about the people who lived on Malta thousands of years ago? What were their beliefs, their technologies, and their connections to the larger world? And most intriguingly, what might still lie buried beneath the stones, waiting to be uncovered? As we continue to explore the mysteries of our ancient past, we are reminded that the questions are often more revealing than the answers. The cart ruts of Malta are a testament to the ingenuity and complexity of ancient civilizations, and perhaps to the vast gaps in our understanding of their lives. What other clues might the landscape of Malta be hiding, and what secrets are still waiting to be discovered, etched in stone? Only time and further exploration will tell. Of ancient civilizations, and perhaps to the vast gaps in our understanding might the landscape of Malta be hiding, and what secrets are still waiting to be discovered, etched in stone? Only time and further exploration will tell. Of ancient civilizations, and perhaps to the vast gaps in our understanding might the landscape of Malta be hiding, and what secrets are still waiting to be discovered, etched in stone? Only time and further exploration will tell. Of ancient civilizations, and perhaps from the blazing sun and monumental grandeur of Egypt's Colossi of Memnon, our exploration now returns to the mist-laden landscapes of Britain, where rolling hills and patchwork fields hide some of the oldest and most enigmatic human structures in Europe. Nestled in the gentle contours of Somerset, the stony Littleton long Barrow rises modestly from the surrounding grasslands, yet its presence is arresting. Unlike towering pyramids or vast earthworks, this Neolithic tomb, constructed around 3700 BC, is at once humble and profoundly mysterious, a silent witness to lives, rituals, and intentions that have been lost to time. Approaching the long Barrow, the first impression is of its deliberate simplicity. A mound of earth and carefully placed stones stretches across nearly 60 feet, with a series of chambers within that invite closer inspection. These chambers, built from limestone slabs, appear at first glance to be nothing more than burial spaces, yet each stone seems intentionally positioned, and the alignment of the structure itself suggests knowledge of patterns beyond mere chance. How did the people of this era, without advanced tools or written language, conceive and execute such precise constructions? And why dedicate so much labor to a structure whose purpose, at least in part, remains obscured by millennia? Archaeologists have long studied Stony Littleton, uncovering evidence that points to a dual purpose, both as a burial site and as a place of ritual. Human remains discovered within the chambers, some of which show signs of cremation or careful placement, hint at a complex relationship with death and the afterlife. Yet the patterns of interment are irregular. Not all bodies were treated the same, and some chambers appear deliberately empty or filled with stones instead. Could these variations reflect differences in status, age, or societal role, or do they suggest a symbolic framework that modern observers can barely interpret? The orientation of the long Barrow adds another layer of intrigue. Its entrance faces east, toward the sunrise, suggesting a potential connection to solar cycles or seasonal rituals. This alignment is mirrored in other Neolithic sites across Britain and Western Europe, raising questions about a shared cosmology or belief system among dispersed prehistoric communities. Did the builders of Stony Littleton Long Barrow seek to harness the rhythms of the sun, embedding their understanding of celestial cycles into the very stones? Or was this alignment simply coincidental, a natural consequence of local topography? Each possibility carries profound implications for how we understand the sophistication of Neolithic societies. Even the construction techniques are puzzling. The builders quarried and transported massive limestone slabs without the aid of modern machinery, relying on ingenuity, brute force, and cooperative labor. Some stones weigh several tons, yet they were arranged with a precision that has withstood thousands of years of weather, erosion, and human interference. How did these ancient engineers calculate stability and placement with such skill? And why choose such durable materials for a structure that, while monumental, is comparatively modest in scale? The answer may lie as much in symbolic intent as in practical necessity. Stony Littleton Long Barrow is also part of a broader landscape of Neolithic activity. Nearby barrows, henges, and ritual sites suggest a densely woven network of sacred spaces, indicating that this region held spiritual significance over many generations. Roads and paths, now faint or vanished, may have connected these sites, creating corridors of ritual, trade, or communication. What did these pathways represent to the people who walked them? Were they merely functional, or did they carry symbolic meaning, linking mortuary practices to broader cosmological beliefs? The artifacts recovered from the barrow provide tantalizing clues yet raise further questions. Pottery fragments, flint tools, and decorative items suggest that offerings or ceremonial activities occurred within or near the chambers. However, the scarcity and variability of these items frustrate attempts to reconstruct a definitive narrative. Were these objects meant to honor the dead, to appease spirits, or to serve as markers of social identity? And why are some chambers nearly barren while others hold traces of multiple burials or ceremonial deposits? The patterns hint at intentionality, yet their meaning remains elusive, an open question echoing across millennia. Beyond human intention, the barrow itself has inspired speculation about other, more enigmatic forces. Some researchers have noted acoustic peculiarities within the chambers. Sound resonates differently inside the passageways, leading to theories that rituals may have incorporated music, chanting, or other auditory elements to enhance spiritual experiences. Could the builders have understood these acoustic properties and intentionally designed the chambers to amplify certain frequencies? Or is this a modern observation, a coincidence interpreted through contemporary curiosity? The barrow, in either case, seems to engage both body and mind, a carefully constructed environment inviting reflection and reverence. The Neolithic builders left no written records, and yet Stony Littleton Long Barrow communicates with remarkable clarity. It embodies concerns with mortality, community, and the cosmos, speaking across the ages with stone, earth, and space. But the very gaps in understanding, the absent explanations, the missing context, are what make it so compelling. Each chamber, each stone, each artifact is a fragment of a puzzle that modern researchers can approach but never fully solve. How did the builders perceive life and death? What rituals, beliefs, or social structures dictated the arrangement of bodies, the orientation of the mound, or the placement of offerings? Even modern science, with its sophisticated tools and techniques, struggles to reveal the barrow's full story. Ground-penetrating radar has hinted at hidden features beneath the earth, subtle variations in soil density suggesting additional chambers or structures yet to be excavated. LiDAR surveys, drone imaging, and 3D modeling offer glimpses into dimensions and alignments invisible to the naked eye. Yet every new discovery seems only to deepen the mystery, raising fresh questions about the intentions and capabilities of the Neolithic builders. How much lies still concealed beneath the surface, waiting for patient observation and careful interpretation? The cultural and symbolic context of the barrow also remains tantalizingly opaque. Some theorists suggest that Stony Littleton and other long barrows were connected to seasonal cycles, agricultural rituals, or ancestor worship, while others propose that they marked territorial claims or reinforced social hierarchies. Without written accounts, we are left to infer meaning from patterns, alignments, and comparative study, an exercise in educated conjecture that illuminates and mystifies in equal measure. Could there be layers of significance we have yet to perceive, rituals encoded in stone and soil whose resonance we can only imagine? Standing before the Barrow today, one is struck by the contrast between its modest physical scale and the enormity of the questions it provokes. Unlike monumental pyramids or sprawling urban ruins, Stony Littleton Long Barrow is intimate, approachable, yet infinitely complex. It invites quiet contemplation, encouraging visitors to consider the lives of those who built it, the communities that maintained it, and the spiritual or societal forces that guided its construction. How did these people view their place in the world, their relationship to ancestors, and the cycles of nature? And why, after thousands of years, do we still feel compelled to seek answers within its stones? Perhaps the most profound mystery is the persistence of the Barrow itself. Over millennia, it has survived storms, floods, human activity, and the slow, inexorable growth of the landscape. Its endurance speaks not only to Neolithic engineering, but to the enduring power of human intent and the desire to leave a mark on the world. And yet, for all its resilience, much about Stony Littleton remains hidden. The lives of those interred within, the full scope of ritual and meaning, and the ways in which this site connected to a larger spiritual and cultural landscape that has largely vanished. As the wind sweeps over the Somerset Hills, rustling grasses and brushing against weathered stones, the Long Barrow remains silent yet eloquent. It asks questions we cannot fully answer, compelling us to consider the ingenuity, devotion, and worldview of a society that predates written history. In its chambers and passages, we sense the presence of those who came before, their actions deliberate and meaningful, their understanding of the world sophisticated yet enigmatic. What other secrets lie hidden within the stones? How much more could the Long Barrow tell us if we only had the means to listen and interpret? Stony Littleton. Long Barrow is a reminder that even modest landscapes can harbor profound mysteries. It is a testament to human creativity, reverence, and ingenuity. Yet it is also a silent challenge to explore, to question, and to wonder at the intentions of those who lived thousands of years before us. And in that silence, we are left with a powerful sense of curiosity and reverence, an invitation to imagine what remains concealed, waiting beneath the earth, patiently guarding the stories of the Neolithic past. From the misty hills of Somerset, where the Stony Littleton Long Barrow stands as a testament to Neolithic ingenuity, we now journey across the Mediterranean to the sun-scorched plains of modern-day Algeria. Here lies Timgad, a city of stone and shadow, almost perfectly preserved, yet hauntingly silent. Founded in the early 1st century AD by the Roman Emperor Trajan, Timgad, once known as Thamugadi, was established as a military colony, a bastion of Roman urban planning on the edge of the vast Sahara. Even today, from the ruins, the precision and ambition of its design are immediately apparent. Streets laid out in perfect grids, monumental arches marking intersections, and public spaces that echo centuries of human activity now long vanished. Walking through Timgad, one cannot ignore the sense of meticulous order. The city's Cardo and Decumanus, the main north-south and east-west streets, intersect at right angles, creating a framework that has endured for nearly 2 millennia. Each block contains traces of homes, shops, baths, and temples, a geometric precision reflecting the Roman commitment to structure, function, and aesthetics. But while the city's architecture speaks to human control over space, it also provokes questions about the fleeting nature of civilizations. How could a city so carefully constructed, vibrant with life and commerce, be abandoned and largely forgotten? And what forces, political, environmental, or otherwise, conspired to reduce this thriving settlement to a ghostly grid of stone? Timgad was more than a military outpost. It was a hub of Roman culture transplanted into North Africa. Inscriptions and mosaics suggest a population that was both cosmopolitan and Romanized, drawing on local Berber influences while adhering to imperial norms. Temples dedicated to Roman deities stand alongside civic buildings, hinting at religious practices that blended official cults with indigenous belief. Yet, despite its apparent integration and prosperity, the city could not withstand the currents of history. Vandals, earthquakes, and the shifting tides of empire gradually led to its decline, leaving behind a skeleton of urban precision and a lingering aura of mystery. One of Timgad's most compelling features is the Arch of Trajan, standing at the main entrance to the city. Carved from massive blocks of stone, it once welcomed residents and visitors alike, a marker of imperial authority and divine favor. The arch is adorned with inscriptions and reliefs, yet some symbols remain enigmatic, their full significance obscured by time. What messages did the architects intend for those who passed beneath? Were they simply declarations of loyalty and power, or did they contain deeper references, cosmological, astrological, or even coded instructions meant only for the initiated? The ambiguity of these markers invites speculation, hinting at dimensions of meaning that modern observers can only begin to interpret. The residential quarters of Timgad reveal further puzzles. Houses and shops follow a standard layout, yet variations in size, ornamentation, and decoration suggest a complex social hierarchy. Some homes feature mosaics depicting mythological scenes, while others are stark, with only rudimentary walls to mark private space. What criteria determined these differences? Were they purely economic, or did they reflect status, office, or ritual function? The presence of communal baths and open spaces indicates a society deeply invested in public life, yet the absence of certain expected civic structures raises further questions about the city's internal organization. Beneath the apparent clarity of Timgad's layout lies a subtler mystery, its survival and partial preservation. Unlike other Roman cities lost to erosion, agriculture, or urban development, Timgad remains remarkably intact. Why did it endure while others faded completely? Was its isolation a protective factor, shielding it from centuries of destruction, or did subsequent human neglect paradoxically conserve it? Archaeologists continue to investigate these questions, using remote sensing, excavation, and comparative studies, yet each answer seems to generate new uncertainties. Even Timgad's location hints at deeper enigmas. Situated near the Aures Mountains, the city was strategically placed to control trade routes, supply lines, and military movements. But the harsh surrounding landscape, semi-arid plains subject to extreme heat and seasonal flooding, would have posed significant challenges. How did the Romans sustain such a population here, ensuring food, water, and security in a frontier environment? The solutions they implemented, from aqueducts to cisterns and road networks, reveal ingenuity, yet the interplay between natural forces and human adaptation raises questions about long-term sustainability and eventual abandonment. Historical records provide context but rarely clarity. Roman documents confirm the founding and flourishing of Timgad, yet much about its decline remains obscure. Was the city gradually depopulated, or did a single catastrophic event trigger its abandonment? Archaeological evidence points to both possibilities. Layers of rubble and burned structures suggest episodic destruction, while the lack of extensive human remains implies a slow, managed retreat. Could climate shifts, resource depletion, or political instability have combined to depopulate this city seemingly overnight in historical terms? Or did cultural factors, invisible to modern researchers, dictate a deliberate departure, leaving behind a grid of empty streets and silent public spaces? The artistic and symbolic features of Timgad add further intrigue. Mosaics depicting mythological scenes, geometric patterns, and representations of animals suggest layers of meaning beyond decorative purposes. Were these images purely ornamental, or did they convey moral, cosmological, or religious concepts understood by contemporary residents? How might these artistic choices have reflected a society negotiating between Roman imperial norms and local traditions? Even today, interpreting these mosaics involves a delicate balance between evidence and inference, a dialogue with a culture that left no explicit written record of its intentions. Moreover, recent excavations have revealed subtle anomalies in the city's structure. Some streets appear slightly misaligned, certain foundations show modifications or repairs, and underground chambers hint at unknown functions. Could these inconsistencies reflect adaptive responses to environmental or social changes, or do they suggest deliberate obfuscation, hidden spaces meant for storage, ritual, or clandestine activity? Each anomaly challenges our assumptions about Roman urban planning and opens the door to speculative interpretation, reminding us that even the most meticulously ordered societies retained layers of mystery. Timgad's enduring appeal lies not only in its architectural precision, but in the questions it raises about human ambition, impermanence, and memory. What lessons were encoded in its streets, buildings, and public spaces? How did its residents perceive their city's purpose, and how did they understand their place within the broader Roman world? The ruins, while silent, speak through alignment, scale, and design, suggesting priorities, beliefs, and social structures that continue to elude complete understanding. As sunlight shifts over the ruins, casting long shadows through empty streets and vacant forums, Timgad evokes a haunting sense of both presence and absence. The city, once alive with soldiers, merchants, priests, and citizens, now exists in a state of suspended time, a monument to human ingenuity and impermanence. What stories remain buried beneath the streets and buildings, waiting for future excavation? How much of Timgad's daily life, its triumphs, fears, and failures, can we reconstruct from the remnants of stone and mortar? And what unknown mysteries might still lie concealed beneath its carefully arranged blocks, whispering through centuries of silence? Timgad challenges us to confront the tension between knowledge and uncertainty. Its ruins offer a window into Roman engineering, urban planning, and frontier life, yet the city retains an aura of the inexplicable, a reminder that even the most documented societies can leave behind questions that defy definitive answers. The city's empty streets, monumental arches, and understated homes ask us to reflect on human ambition, the passage of time, and the fragility of civilizations. And in that reflection, we are invited to wonder, how many stories of the past, encoded in stone, soil, and silence, are waiting for those willing to seek them out? From the meticulously ordered streets of Timgad, where Roman precision shaped a frontier city now largely reclaimed by desert sands, our journey takes us to the rolling hills and verdant landscapes of central Bosnia. Here, amidst the green folds of the Visoko Valley, rise enigmatic formations that challenge conventional understanding, what some have called the Bosnian pyramids. Unlike Timgad's measured human-made grids, these massive triangular shapes appear to thrust naturally from the earth, yet their proportions and alignments invite scrutiny and speculation. Are these hills merely the product of erosion and geological processes, or do they conceal evidence of an ancient, sophisticated civilization, lost to the mists of time? The largest of these formations, known as the Pyramid of the Sun, dominates the valley, its sloping sides seemingly deliberate, precise in their angularity, and oriented in ways that echo the alignments of pyramidal structures across the globe. From an aerial perspective, the hill's geometry is striking. Nearly symmetrical sides, corners pointing toward cardinal directions, and contours that appear unnervingly regular. Skeptics argue that natural processes can create deceptively geometric forms, yet the human mind cannot help but question, Could it be that these hills were sculpted, shaped, or enhanced, transforming ordinary landforms into structures of monumental intent? Excavations around the Bosnian pyramids have revealed further enigmas. Layers of concrete-like material, terraces, and stone blocks suggest possible human intervention, though the origins, methods, and purposes remain fiercely debated. Carbon dating of certain materials yields dates that, if verified, would place human construction thousands of years earlier than the rise of known advanced European civilizations. Could there have been a forgotten society in the Balkans, capable of engineering and organizing monumental projects long before classical empires emerged? Or do these formations reflect an extraordinary coincidence of nature, misinterpreted through the lens of human curiosity? The site's complexity extends beyond the pyramids themselves. Labyrinthine tunnels discovered beneath the hills contain stone passages, chambers, and what appear to be deliberately placed artifacts. Some archaeologists suggest that these tunnels were used for ceremonial or ritual purposes, possibly related to burial, water management, or symbolic journeys. Others remain skeptical, noting that natural caves and fissures can produce similar formations. Yet the tunnel's regularity, straight passages, and occasional layering of stones hint at purposeful human activity. Were these underground networks the work of an unknown culture seeking to harness the earth itself as a sacred or practical space? Or are they simply the result of geological processes amplified by centuries of sedimentation and erosion? Water is another recurring theme in the Visoko Valley. Springs, streams, and underground water channels appear throughout the area, some flowing through tunnels in ways that suggest deliberate channeling or management. Could these hydrological features have been enhanced by ancient engineers for ceremonial, agricultural, or practical purposes? Or do they simply represent a natural yet remarkable adaptation of the landscape to the needs of those who inhabited the valley? The interaction between geology, water, and human ingenuity, or the appearance thereof, adds an additional layer of mystery to the pyramids, blurring the line between natural and constructed phenomena. The cultural context of the Bosnian pyramids is equally elusive. Unlike the Egyptian or Mesoamerican pyramids, there is no written record, no known inscriptions, no preserved texts that can confirm intent or authorship. Theories abound, ranging from the conventional to the extraordinary. Some suggest the pyramids were ceremonial centers designed to harness energy or align with celestial bodies, while others propose that the hills mark sites of spiritual or ancestral significance. Without definitive evidence, each theory remains a conjecture, yet all converge on the undeniable fact that these formations provoke deep curiosity and fascination. The Pyramid of the Sun's orientation, in particular, has sparked significant speculation. It appears aligned with true north, echoing a pattern seen in pyramid construction worldwide. Could the builders, assuming human hands were involved, have possessed a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and geography, capable of precise alignments without modern instruments? And if so, what was the purpose of this alignment? Was it practical, ceremonial, or symbolic? Each angle, each measured slope, seems to invite questions that stretch the imagination, leaving room for wonder and reflection about the knowledge and capabilities of ancient peoples. Equally mysterious are the artifacts found around the pyramids. Fragments of ceramics, small tools, and carved stones have been uncovered in and around the terraces and tunnels. While some suggest these are incidental deposits, others argue that their distribution is not random, hinting at deliberate placement in relation to architectural features or natural formations. Could these objects represent remnants of a sophisticated material culture, lost to the currents of time? Or do they reflect later human activity, misattributed to earlier periods by modern investigators? The ambiguity underscores the challenge of interpreting sites that resist easy classification, where human history and geological processes intertwine. Adding to the intrigue is the valley's acoustic phenomenon. Certain tunnels and stone chambers reportedly produce unusual resonances when sounded, amplifying even the quietest echoes. Some researchers suggest that these effects could have been intentionally designed, perhaps for ritualistic chanting or ceremonies meant to interact with the acoustic properties of the earth. Is it possible that ancient builders understood the principles of resonance and sound manipulation, integrating them into subterranean spaces for spiritual or practical purposes? Or are these acoustic curiosities simply natural byproducts of stone and cavity, enhanced by modern perception and imagination? The scale of the site also invites questions about the society that could have constructed it. If human intervention played a role, organizing terraces, tunnels, and alignment of massive hills would have required significant labor, resources, and social coordination. What culture could have existed in the Visoko Valley with such capabilities, centuries before written records or large centralized civilizations are documented in Europe? Could the Bosnian pyramids be the remnants of a forgotten civilization, whose history has been erased by time, conquest, or environmental change? Or are we witnessing a rare alignment of natural features that, by coincidence, mirror the form and function of pyramidal monuments known elsewhere? Geological studies provide some insights, yet rarely do they settle debates. Layers of conglomerate, sandstone, and clay are interpreted variously as natural strata or man-made construction material. Certain terraces are seen as naturally eroded ridges, while others may have been shaped or augmented by human hands. This duality, nature versus human intervention, defines much of the fascination with the Bosnian pyramids, forcing observers to navigate a fine line between skepticism and imagination. The valley itself becomes a dialogue, a conversation between what can be verified and what remains inexplicably suggestive. Even local legends contribute to the sense of mystery. Stories of underground chambers, hidden treasures, and ancient wisdom passed through generations have persisted despite the absence of documentation. Folklore, while often dismissed by strict academic standards, can reflect the lingering memory of events, places, or practices long lost to history. Could the tales themselves contain kernels of truth, encoded in narrative and allegory, hinting at the function or significance of the pyramids? Or are they merely human attempts to make sense of a landscape that challenges perception and expectation? The Pyramid of the Sun's orientation, in particular, has sparked significant speculation. It appears aligned with true north, echoing a pattern seen in pyramid construction worldwide. Could the builders, assuming human hands were involved, have possessed a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and geography, capable of precise alignments without modern instruments? And if so, what was the purpose of this alignment? Was it practical, ceremonial, or symbolic? Each angle, each measured slope, seems to invite questions that stretch the imagination, leaving room for wonder and reflection about the knowledge and capabilities of ancient peoples. Equally mysterious are the artifacts found around the pyramids. Fragments of ceramics, small tools, and carved stones have been uncovered in and around the terraces and tunnels. While some suggest these are incidental deposits, others argue that their distribution is not random, hinting at deliberate placement in relation to architectural features or natural formations. Could these objects represent remnants of a sophisticated material culture, lost to the currents of time? Or do they reflect later human activity, misattributed to earlier periods by modern investigators? The ambiguity underscores the challenge of interpreting sites that resist easy classification, where human history and geological processes intertwine. Adding to the intrigue is the valley's acoustic phenomenon. Certain tunnels and stone chambers reportedly produce unusual resonances when sounded, amplifying even the quietest echoes. Some researchers suggest that these effects could have been intentionally designed, perhaps for ritualistic chanting or ceremonies meant to interact with the acoustic properties of the earth. Is it possible that ancient builders understood the principles of resonance and sound manipulation, integrating them into subterranean spaces for spiritual or practical purposes? Or are these acoustic curiosities simply natural byproducts of stone and cavity, enhanced by modern perception and imagination? The scale of the site also invites questions about the society that could have constructed it. If human intervention played a role, organizing terraces, tunnels, and alignment of massive hills would have required significant labor, resources, and social coordination. What culture could have existed in the Visoko Valley with such capabilities, centuries before written records or large centralized civilizations are documented in Europe? Could the Bosnian pyramids be the remnants of a forgotten civilization, whose history has been erased by time, conquest, or environmental change? Or are we witnessing a rare alignment of natural features that, by coincidence, mirror the form and function of pyramidal monuments known elsewhere? Geological studies provide some insights, yet rarely do they settle debates. Layers of conglomerate, sandstone, and clay are interpreted variously as natural strata or man-made construction material. Certain terraces are seen as naturally eroded ridges, while others may have been shaped or augmented by human hands. This duality, nature versus human intervention, defines much of the fascination with the Bosnian pyramids, forcing observers to navigate a fine line between skepticism and imagination. The valley itself becomes a dialogue, a conversation between what can be verified and what remains inexplicably suggestive. Even local legends contribute to the sense of mystery. Stories of underground chambers, hidden treasures, and ancient wisdom passed through generations have persisted despite the absence of documentation. Folklore, while often dismissed by strict academic standards, can reflect the lingering memory of events, places, or practices long lost to history. Could the tales themselves contain kernels of truth, encoded in narrative and allegory, hinting at the function or significance of the pyramids? Or are they merely human attempts to make sense of a landscape that challenges perception and expectation? As the verdant slopes of the Visoko Valley recede from view, leaving behind the enigmatic shapes of the Bosnian pyramids, our journey carries us across the Mediterranean to the rugged landscapes of Sardinia, an island steeped in history, yet shadowed by mysteries that continue to confound researchers. Here, nestled among rolling hills and limestone outcrops, lies the necropolis of Anghelu Ruju, a prehistoric burial site whose stones whisper secrets of a world nearly 6 millennia old. Unlike monumental pyramids or organized urban grids, Anghelu Ruju offers a different form of enigma, a landscape sculpted by the hands of the living, but designed for the dead. From a distance, the necropolis appears as a series of irregular mounds punctuated by stone slabs and upright monoliths. These structures, though weathered by centuries of wind and rain, retain a deliberate, almost purposeful arrangement. The site evokes both reverence and curiosity, inviting the observer to ponder the lives of those who shaped it and the beliefs that guided their hands. Who were the people who undertook such work, and what compelled them to carve permanence from the Sardinian soil? Excavations reveal that the site dates back to the late Neolithic period, around 3,400 BC to 3,200 BC, making it one of the oldest known burial complexes on the island. Its tombs, or domus de Janus, literally houses of the fairies in the Sardinian tongue, are carved directly into the rock, forming intricate chambers where the dead were laid to rest alongside personal belongings, tools, and occasionally symbolic objects. Some chambers are simple, consisting of a single room, while others unfold into labyrinthine complexes, their walls etched with geometric patterns, spirals, and depictions of the natural world. The purpose of these carvings remains one of the necropolis's enduring mysteries. Were they purely decorative, or did they serve as conduits between the living and the afterlife? Some scholars propose that spirals and geometric motifs symbolized cycles of life and death, or celestial movements, an attempt to embed cosmic understanding into stone. Others speculate that certain carvings could have held magical or ritual significance, intended to guide spirits, protect the dead, or ensure rebirth. Yet, without textual records, all interpretations remain speculative, and the silence of the stones challenges modern researchers to bridge millennia of cultural and spiritual distance. The necropolis's scale and organization are equally intriguing. While small tombs dominate the site, the collective layout suggests careful planning. Clusters of chambers are interspersed with open spaces, sometimes aligned along natural rock formations or sightlines across the surrounding hills. Could these arrangements indicate social hierarchies, familial groupings, or territorial boundaries? Or were they guided by topographical and environmental factors, with builders taking advantage of natural features to ease construction and create sacred landscapes? In Anghelu Ruju, the interplay between human intent and the natural world seems inseparable, each choice shaped by both practical necessity and spiritual vision. Artifacts recovered from the tombs add another layer of mystery. Pottery, stone tools, and ornaments of bone or shell reveal a culture both resourceful and expressive. Some objects suggest trade networks extending beyond Sardinia, connecting communities across the Mediterranean. Others appear inexplicably sophisticated, hinting at artistic and technological abilities not typically associated with such early societies. How did these people acquire the materials, skills, and organizational capacity to create such elaborate burial sites? And what do these items tell us about their beliefs, values, and understanding of the world beyond the visible? Certain tombs contain multiple burials, indicating communal interment practices. Skeletal analysis reveals both adults and children, men and women, arranged with care but not always in predictable patterns. Were these arrangements reflective of kinship, status, or ritual significance? Could there have been a ceremonial calendar dictating who was buried when, or were the tombs used continuously over centuries, accumulating generations of the deceased? Each discovery prompts further questions about the social and spiritual life of a people long vanished, leaving only stone as testimony to their presence. The construction techniques themselves remain a subject of fascination and debate. Carving into solid rock, forming chambers with straight walls and smooth floors, required precision and effort. Some chambers show evidence of tools designed for scraping and polishing. Others reveal a sequence of modifications over time, suggesting evolving practices or adaptive reuse. Could these methods have been passed down through generations as closely guarded knowledge, or were they independently reinvented in each tomb? And what motivated such sustained labor on structures intended not for the living, but for those who had already passed? The orientation of certain tombs hints at astronomical knowledge. Some researchers have observed alignments with solstices, equinoxes, or prominent celestial bodies, raising the possibility that the necropolis was not only a resting place, but also a site of ritual observation and cosmological significance. Were the Neolithic builders attempting to synchronize the lives of the living with the movements of the heavens, embedding cycles of time and spiritual rhythm into the very stones themselves? Or are these alignments coincidental, the byproduct of topography and practical construction needs, yet interpreted as deliberate by modern observers seeking patterns? Local folklore intertwines with the archaeological record, offering tantalizing glimpses of how the necropolis was perceived by successive generations. The term domus de Janus, evoking fairy dwellings, speaks to a persistent sense of wonder and reverence. Legends recount spirits, hidden treasures, and portals to other realms, hinting at cultural memory passed down orally. Could these stories preserve echoes of ancient beliefs, transmitted across millennia even as the original meanings faded? Or are they products of later imagination, projecting mystery onto the silent tombs of the past? Geophysical surveys and modern excavations continue to reveal surprises. Hidden chambers, secondary tunnels, and previously unknown rock carvings emerge beneath layers of soil and debris, suggesting the necropolis may be even more extensive than initially thought. What other secrets remain buried, waiting to be uncovered? Could undiscovered tombs hold artifacts that challenge current understandings of Neolithic Sardinia, revealing technologies, cultural connections, or spiritual practices previously unimagined? The necropolis also raises broader questions about human interaction with death and the landscape. Unlike monumental pyramids designed to glorify rulers, or urban grids like Timgad reflecting administrative precision, Anghelu Ruju seems rooted in communal memory, spiritual practice, and the intimate shaping of the earth for ritual purpose. What does it reveal about the relationship between humans and their environment, between life and mortality, between the seen and unseen? And how much of our own assumptions about ancient societies might obscure understanding, leading us to interpret through the lens of modern expectations rather than the worldview of Neolithic people? As sunlight filters through the low hills of Sardinia, casting shifting shadows across stone chambers and carved surfaces, Anghelu Ruju stands as both a testament to human ingenuity and a monument to the unknown. The necropolis, silent yet articulate in its arrangement and artistry, invites us to consider what remains hidden beneath its floors and terraces, and what has already been lost to time. Every carved wall, every polished chamber, every careful placement of stone speaks across millennia, urging reflection on the ingenuity, belief, and care of a people who left no written record, only enduring stone. The necropolis of Anghelu Ruju challenges us to contemplate the interplay of human intention and natural formation, of ritual and practicality, of life and death. It asks not for immediate answers, but for curiosity, patience, and openness to wonder. What knowledge, stories, or cultural practices are buried within these chambers, waiting for those who approach with respect and careful inquiry? How many facets of Neolithic society, its spirituality, artistry, and worldview, remain locked in stone, tantalizingly out of reach? And what can these ancient carvings teach us about the universal human desire to leave a mark, to structure the unknown, and to seek connection with forces larger than ourselves? Anghelu Ruju does not yield simple answers. It offers questions, carefully layered like the rock from which it was carved, inviting researchers and observers alike to navigate between certainty and speculation. In its quiet presence, the necropolis reminds us that some mysteries are meant not only to be solved, but also to be contemplated, to inspire awe, reflection, and the enduring pursuit of knowledge across the chasm of time. The chasm from the sun-bleached stones and carved chambers of Anghelu Ruju, we journey northward across the European continent, to the windswept landscapes of Scotland's northeast, where the shadows of ancient stones stretch across mist-laden fields. Here, amidst the rolling hills outside Inverness, lies one of Britain's most enigmatic and atmospheric prehistoric sites, the Clava Cairns. Unlike the vertical grandeur of pyramids or the subterranean mystery of Sardinian tombs, Clava Cairns presents a different type of riddle, a circle of stones, carefully arranged, echoing rhythms of light and shadow that have fascinated visitors and researchers alike for centuries. From the edge of the nearby heather fields, the site reveals itself slowly. Standing stones encircle low cairns, their weathered surfaces etched with the passage of millennia. Some rise tall and solitary, while others cluster in subtle concentric rings around earthen mounds. The visual effect is immediate, a mixture of solemnity and intrigue, as if the land itself had been shaped to frame something unseen, a secret embedded in stone. One cannot help but wonder, what prompted the Neolithic and Bronze Age people of this region to construct these cairns with such precision, aligning stone to stone, mound to mound? Dating back to around 3000 BC to 2000 BC, Clava Cairns belong to a broader tradition of passage tombs found across Britain and Ireland, yet their design is uniquely sophisticated. Each cairn is accompanied by standing stones, some decorated with cup and ring marks, spirals, and other enigmatic carvings whose meanings remain elusive. These petroglyphs suggest ritualistic or symbolic purposes, perhaps linked to cosmology, fertility, or ancestral veneration. But the precise intent behind these carvings continues to evade definitive interpretation. Were they protective symbols, astronomical markers, or coded messages intended for those initiated into the mysteries of the dead? As one approaches the cairns, a subtle pattern emerges. The largest cairns are often paired with smaller satellite mounds, connected by stone alignments that suggest careful planning. Some researchers have noted that certain standing stones appear to align with sunrise or sunset on specific days of the year, particularly the winter solstice. Could this imply that the builders possessed sophisticated astronomical knowledge, embedding their understanding of the sun's cycle into stone to mark time, ritual, or the journey of souls? Or are these alignments coincidental, the product of human perception seeking patterns in a landscape that already evokes awe? The passageways within the cairns themselves add another layer of intrigue. Small chambers, often accessible only through narrow, carefully constructed corridors, contain remnants of human remains, pottery shards, and occasionally ornaments of bone or stone. Archaeologists suggest that these tombs were used repeatedly over generations, with successive burials carefully positioned alongside their predecessors. Yet, even as science maps the skeletal remains and catalogs artifacts, questions persist. Were these spaces purely for interment, or did they serve broader ritualistic purposes? Spaces where the living communed with the dead, celebrated seasonal cycles, or enacted ceremonies whose meanings have been lost to time. The cup and ring marks, etched with meticulous care, have been the subject of particular fascination. These geometric carvings, often concentric and punctuated with small depressions, appear on standing stones surrounding the cairns, sometimes in direct alignment with tomb entrances or solar axes. Their exact significance remains unknown. Could they represent celestial maps, ancestral lineages, or symbolic depictions of the journey from life to death? Or were they designed to amplify spiritual or ritual power, a form of prehistoric communication with forces invisible to the human eye? Each mark is a question carved into stone, an invitation to speculate while acknowledging the limitations of modern understanding. Equally compelling is the interplay between the natural landscape and the constructed features of Clava Cairns. The cairns are not isolated. They occupy knolls and slopes that provide views across the surrounding valleys, hills, and rivers. The positioning may have been intentional, integrating natural topography with human construction. Did the builders see these cairns as anchors within the landscape, markers of territory, or nodes of spiritual significance? Or were they located to harness the natural flow of sunlight, wind, and seasonal change, embedding the rhythm of the environment into ritual practice? The merging of earth, stone, and sky at Clava Cairns demonstrates an intuitive understanding of place, an ability to infuse meaning into geography itself. The acoustic qualities of the cairns also invite contemplation. Certain chambers and enclosed spaces amplify sound in unusual ways, creating echoes and resonances that would have been perceptible to those walking the passages thousands of years ago. Some scholars suggest that these acoustic effects may have been intentional, enhancing chants, rituals, or spoken words during ceremonial activity. Could the ancients have understood the properties of sound, using stone to manipulate resonance as part of their spiritual practice? Or are these effects merely incidental, discovered by later visitors attuned to the subtle music of stone and air? Excavations over the past century have revealed additional surprises. Human remains indicate that the site was used for hundreds of years, perhaps spanning the late Neolithic into the early Bronze Age. Pottery fragments, beads, and stone tools hint at cultural practices extending beyond mere burial, suggesting ceremonial feasts, offerings, or commemorations tied to the cycles of life and death. Some artifacts appear locally produced, while others hint at exchange networks extending across northern Britain and beyond, suggesting that even remote regions were part of wider social and cultural systems. How did these communities maintain connections, and what role did the cairns play in forging and reinforcing those ties? Despite decades of study, Clava Cairns resists straightforward explanation. Were these tombs simply repositories for the dead, or were they focal points of communal identity, spiritual practice, and cosmological observation? The repetition of circular forms, the alignment of stones, the careful orientation of passages, all point to intent, yet the exact reasoning remains elusive. Did the builders possess knowledge lost to time, or are we projecting complexity onto structures that served practical as well as symbolic purposes? The site challenges assumptions, blending simplicity and sophistication in ways that continue to inspire curiosity. Local legends and folklore add to the mystique. Stories of spirits, supernatural guardians, and hidden knowledge have circulated for generations, suggesting that even in more recent centuries, Clava Cairns were regarded as places of power and mystery. Could these tales preserve echoes of Neolithic belief systems, distorted through the passage of time? Or are they reflective of human fascination with the unknown, projecting contemporary imagination onto landscapes that have always defied easy understanding? Modern technology has revealed more layers to the site. Ground-penetrating radar, aerial surveys, and 3D modeling have mapped subsurface features, uncovering smaller cairns, peripheral standing stones, and potential pathways that extend beyond the main circles. Each discovery deepens the mystery, suggesting a complex and extensive ritual landscape yet to be fully understood. What connections existed between these additional features and the central cairns? Were they part of a ceremonial network, a territorial marker system, or something else entirely? Walking among the stones today, one cannot help but sense the deliberate presence of those who built them. Every cairn, every standing stone, every carved groove speaks to intention and purpose. Yet the true meanings remain inaccessible, layered beneath centuries of weathering, erosion, and human interpretation. The Clava Cairns invite contemplation not just of death and ritual, but of human ingenuity, the shaping of landscape, and the enduring need to connect with forces beyond our immediate perception. Equally compelling is the interplay between the natural landscape and the constructed features of Clava Cairns. The cairns are not isolated. They occupy knolls and slopes that provide views across the surrounding valleys, hills, and rivers. The positioning may have been intentional, integrating natural topography with human construction. Did the builders see these cairns as anchors within the landscape, markers of territory, or nodes of spiritual significance? Or were they located to harness the natural flow of sunlight, wind, and seasonal change, embedding the rhythm of the environment into ritual practice? The merging of earth, stone, and sky at Clava Cairns demonstrates an intuitive understanding of place, an ability to infuse meaning into geography itself. The acoustic qualities of the cairns also invite contemplation. Certain chambers and enclosed spaces amplify sound in unusual ways, creating echoes and resonances that would have been perceptible to those walking the passages thousands of years ago. Some scholars suggest that these acoustic effects may have been intentional, enhancing chants, rituals, or spoken words during ceremonial activity. Could the ancients have understood the properties of sound, using stone to manipulate resonance as part of their spiritual practice? Or are these effects merely incidental, discovered by later visitors attuned to the subtle music of stone and air? Excavations over the past century have revealed additional surprises. Human remains indicate that the site was used for hundreds of years, perhaps spanning the late Neolithic into the early Bronze Age. Pottery fragments, beads, and stone tools hint at cultural practices extending beyond mere burial, suggesting ceremonial feasts, offerings, or commemorations tied to the cycles of life and death. Some artifacts appear locally produced, while others hint at exchange networks extending across northern Britain and beyond, suggesting that even remote regions were part of wider social and cultural systems. How did these communities maintain connections, and what role did the cairns play in forging and reinforcing those ties? Despite decades of study, Clava Cairns resists straightforward explanation. Were these tombs simply repositories for the dead, or were they focal points of communal identity, spiritual practice, and cosmological observation? The repetition of circular forms, the alignment of stones, the careful orientation of passages, all point to intent, yet the exact reasoning remains elusive. Did the builders possess knowledge lost to time, or are we projecting complexity onto structures that served practical as well as symbolic purposes? The site challenges assumptions, blending simplicity and sophistication in ways that continue to inspire curiosity. Local legends and folklore add to the mystique. Stories of spirits, supernatural guardians, and hidden knowledge have circulated for generations, suggesting that even in more recent centuries, Clava Cairns were regarded as places of power and mystery. Could these tales preserve echoes of Neolithic belief systems, distorted through the passage of time? Or are they reflective of human fascination with the unknown, projecting contemporary imagination onto landscapes that have always defied easy understanding? Modern technology has revealed more layers to the site. Ground-penetrating radar, aerial surveys, and 3D modeling have mapped subsurface features, uncovering smaller cairns, peripheral standing stones, and potential pathways that extend beyond the main circles. Each discovery deepens the mystery, suggesting a complex and extensive ritual landscape yet to be fully understood. What connections existed between these additional features and the central cairns? Were they part of a ceremonial network, a territorial marker system, or something else entirely? Walking among the stones today, one cannot help but sense the deliberate presence of those who built them. Every cairn, every standing stone, every carved groove speaks to intention and purpose. Yet the true meanings remain inaccessible, layered beneath centuries of weathering, erosion, and human interpretation. The Clava Cairns invite contemplation not just of death and ritual, but of human ingenuity, the shaping of landscape, and the enduring need to connect with forces beyond our immediate perception. From the windswept stone circles of Clava Cairns, our journey continues further into the north, across rugged coastal cliffs and rolling heathlands, until we reach the remote Orkney Islands, where the North Sea crashes against weathered shores and mists linger like ancient whispers. Here, buried for millennia beneath sand and soil, lies one of the most remarkably preserved prehistoric settlements ever discovered, Skara Brae. Unlike solitary cairns or ritual circles, Skara Brae offers an intimate glimpse into the daily lives of those who inhabited it around 3180 BC to 2500 BC. Step by step, stone by stone, this village unveils a civilization whose sophistication and adaptation remain astonishing, even to modern eyes. Emerging from the sand, Skara Brae presents itself as a cluster of low, connected stone dwellings, their rounded walls and interlinked passageways forming a village frozen in time. The absence of timber or large-scale construction materials has not diminished the ingenuity evident in every structure. Each home is sunken into the earth, partially shielded from the harsh winds of the North Sea, yet organized with deliberate precision. Walkways connect the rooms, stone furniture is carved directly from bedrock, and hearths lie at the heart of each dwelling, evidence of domestic life meticulously planned. One cannot help but wonder, how did these Neolithic people achieve such enduring design, and what daily rhythms shaped their choices in constructing this subterranean village. Skara Brae was first revealed to the modern world in 1850, when a violent storm stripped away the sand that had concealed it for centuries. What lay beneath astonished archaeologists: a nearly complete settlement, its stone walls intact, hearths still visible, and furniture seemingly untouched by time. The preservation was unparalleled, offering insight not just into architecture, but into human behavior, diet, and craftsmanship. Yet for every artifact uncovered, questions multiplied. How did this small community sustain itself in such a remote location? And why, after centuries of occupation, was the village ultimately abandoned, leaving behind stone walls without a single recorded explanation? Excavations reveal that the village contained roughly 8 main dwellings, each comprising multiple rooms connected by narrow corridors. Within these, stone beds, dressers, storage boxes, and hearths suggest that domestic life was highly organized. Every home mirrors the others in layout, hinting at cultural norms and social cohesion. Yet subtle differences suggest individual expression or adaptation, perhaps reflecting family structure, status, or functional specialization. Could these design choices also reflect spiritual or ritual priorities, subtly embedding beliefs into the very architecture of the settlement? The furniture itself offers further intrigue. Carved stone beds, some with compartments beneath for storage, display an understanding of ergonomics and practicality. Dressers and shelving units indicate a concern for order and accessibility, while hearths and drains demonstrate a sophisticated grasp of hygiene and environmental control. Did the residents of Skara Brae invent these solutions independently, or were they part of a wider network of Neolithic innovation that spread across the British Isles? And to what extent does this reflect a culture deeply attuned to its environment, capable of shaping its surroundings with both practicality and foresight? Pottery fragments, tools, and ornaments discovered within the dwellings reveal connections to other regions. Beads of amber, bone combs, and stone implements hint at trade networks that extended far beyond Orkney, suggesting that even a seemingly isolated community was part of a broader cultural and economic system. Yet how these networks operated and what motivated such long-distance exchanges in an era of small, scattered settlements remains largely speculative. Were these objects purely utilitarian, or did they carry symbolic or ritual significance, representing alliances, status, or spiritual beliefs? The village's relationship to its landscape raises further questions. Skara Brae was built near the coast, yet slightly inland from the immediate shoreline, offering both protection from storms and access to the sea for fishing and transportation. The careful positioning of dwellings suggests an intimate understanding of tides, weather patterns, and seasonal cycles. How much of the village's design was determined by environmental necessity, and how much by cultural or ritualistic considerations? Did the Neolithic inhabitants observe celestial events, seasonal changes, or other natural phenomena as guides for construction and daily life? One of the most fascinating aspects of Skara Brae is the evidence of community and social organization. The uniformity of the dwellings, the shared spaces between homes, and the communal use of resources suggest a society with rules, norms, and cooperative practices. Yet despite this apparent cohesion, subtle signs of individuality, variations in stonework, the placement of personal artifacts, and differences in hearth construction hint at nuanced social dynamics. How were decisions made within this community? Did leadership exist, or were practices guided by collective agreement, tradition, or ritual? The abandonment of Skara Brae around 2500 BC adds another layer of mystery. Archaeologists suggest that climatic changes, rising sea levels, or soil degradation may have made the settlement unsustainable. Yet no evidence points to violence, disease, or sudden catastrophe, only a quiet desertion. What compelled these people to leave a home that had been carefully adapted to their environment for centuries? Were there unseen social, spiritual, or environmental pressures that led to departure, or did the community gradually disperse, leaving behind a village that would remain hidden beneath sand until rediscovery millennia later? Even the practicalities of daily life evoke wonder. Middens and hearths reveal a diet rich in seafood, grains, and foraged plants, suggesting careful adaptation to the harsh northern environment. Yet the extent of preservation also reveals artistic and symbolic activity. Carved stone implements, decorated pottery, and personal adornments hint at a culture that valued beauty, ritual, and perhaps spiritual expression alongside survival. What stories, beliefs, and cultural practices lay behind these artifacts? How did they shape the identity of this remote yet sophisticated community? Skara Brae's discovery also raises questions about the continuity of Neolithic traditions. The layout, construction methods, and artifacts bear similarities to other settlements and ritual sites across Orkney, such as the Ring of Brodgar and Maeshowe, suggesting a shared cultural framework. Yet each site possesses unique characteristics, raising questions about regional variation, social organization, and ritual practice. How interconnected were these communities, and what knowledge, skills, or beliefs were transmitted across generations and landscapes? Modern analysis continues to reveal subtle details that challenge assumptions. Carbon dating refines timelines, soil analysis uncovers patterns of consumption and cultivation, and microarchaeology suggests domestic and ritual activities previously undetectable. Yet every answer seems to deepen the mystery. How did this small community sustain itself for centuries? What knowledge of construction, food storage, and environmental management was embedded in their practices? And how much of their worldview, spiritual, cosmological, or social, can we ever hope to reconstruct from stone, soil, and fragmentary artifacts? Walking through the sunken corridors today, one experiences a sense of intimacy rarely found in prehistoric sites. The scale of the dwellings, the precise stonework, and the preserved hearths invite reflection on lives lived millennia ago. One imagines the smell of wood fires, the murmur of conversation, and the rhythm of daily tasks, gathering, cooking, crafting, teaching, and celebrating. How much of this rich tapestry of experience can modern archaeology ever truly capture? Skara Brae challenges modern assumptions about prehistoric life. It confronts us with evidence of ingenuity, adaptability, and social cohesion that is both remarkable and mysterious. Were these people simply pragmatic, or did they integrate spiritual and symbolic understanding into the very foundations of their homes? Were the buildings meant to endure merely as shelters, or as a reflection of cosmological or cultural principles, embedding knowledge into stone as Anghelu Ruju and Clava Cairns did centuries later? Even the village's enduring silence invites speculation. Its walls and passages, while resilient, offer no written record, leaving interpretation to modern observers. Did the inhabitants possess oral traditions, rituals, or symbolic systems now lost? Can we ever hope to bridge the temporal and cultural divide to truly understand their worldview? Or are we destined only to infer meaning through artifacts and architecture? Skara Brae, like the sites explored before it, demands patience and attentiveness. Its secrets are not shouted but whispered through stone, soil, and the careful alignment of rooms. Every hearth, storage box, and passageway speaks across millennia, inviting us to reflect on human ingenuity, adaptability, and the persistent quest to shape life and death, survival and meaning, in a world governed by both natural forces and human intent. As the North Sea winds whip across the Orkney landscape and light shifts across the sunken dwellings, Skara Brae stands as a testament to lives carefully structured, creatively expressed, and mysteriously concluded. It reminds us that human history is far richer than any single site or civilization, and that even in remote places, in small stone homes, profound knowledge, belief, and culture thrived. What lessons, stories, or cultural wisdom lie hidden in the walls of Skara Brae? And what truths about human life in the Neolithic era might still remain buried, waiting for the patient eye and careful hand to uncover? Here, as at Anghelu Ruju, Clava Cairns, and countless other ancient sites, the past is a dialogue rather than a narrative. Skara Brae asks us to listen, to contemplate, and to accept that some mysteries endure, not as puzzles to be solved, but as enduring invitations to wonder. What remains concealed within its sunken walls? And what can these stones teach us about the human desire to inhabit, understand, and shape the world around us? From the sunken dwellings of Skara Brae, where the lives of Neolithic families are etched into stone and soil, we journey southward across the British Isles, moving from intimate spaces of domestic ingenuity to a landscape dominated by monumental scale. Here, in the rolling Wiltshire countryside, the earth rises and falls with gentle grace. Yet upon these fields stands one of the most extraordinary prehistoric constructions in Europe, the Avebury stone circle. Unlike the enclosed intimacy of Skara Brae, Avebury confronts the horizon with its immense presence. It is a place where the human hand has reshaped the land itself, arranging colossal stones into circles that defy simple explanation. As we approach the site, the first impression is one of awe tempered by mystery. Massive megaliths, weathered to a gray patina by thousands of years of wind and rain, punctuate the landscape. The largest stones tower over modern humans, their sheer size and weight hinting at sophisticated knowledge of engineering, organization, and communal effort. These stones, some reaching more than 10 meters in height, form concentric circles around a central henge, enclosing open spaces that seem simultaneously barren and charged with presence. Walking among them, one senses a deliberate manipulation of scale and perspective, an intention to impress, to mark territory, or to create a sacred space where the ordinary and the extraordinary meet. Avebury dates to approximately 2850 BC to 2200 BC, placing it firmly within the late Neolithic period. Archaeologists have long debated the purpose of these stone arrangements, yet definitive answers remain elusive. The circle, which spans over 300 meters in diameter, dwarfs even the more famous Stonehenge, suggesting a community capable of remarkable cooperation and vision. How were these stones quarried, transported, and erected without metal tools or wheeled vehicles? What motivated a society to invest decades, perhaps generations, into constructing such monumental precision? The pattern of the stones itself is enigmatic. 3 distinct circles, the central henge, the northern and southern outer rings, form a complex geometry whose meaning remains a matter of speculation. Were these arrangements aligned to astronomical phenomena, such as the solstices or lunar cycles, creating a calendar etched in stone? Or do the circles represent symbolic or spiritual domains, each ring a boundary between the mundane and the sacred, the living and the ancestral? Some researchers suggest that the arrangement may encode social hierarchies or ritual pathways, guiding participants through carefully orchestrated movements during ceremonies. Yet, as with so many prehistoric sites, certainty remains out of reach. Avebury is not isolated. It is part of a broader ritual landscape. Long barrows, smaller stone circles, avenues of paired stones, and nearby river valleys all contribute to a sense that this region was meticulously designed and imbued with meaning. The relationship between these elements suggests a culture deeply attuned to the landscape, capable of embedding social, spiritual, and astronomical knowledge into the very earth. How did communities coordinate such expansive projects? Were there centralized leaders, or did social cohesion arise from shared belief systems and communal effort? And how much of the ritual or symbolic purpose has been obscured by time, weather, and human interference. Excavations at Avebury have revealed evidence of ceremonial activity rather than domestic occupation. Animal bones, pottery shards, and traces of feasting suggest that these open spaces were the sites of gatherings, offerings, and perhaps seasonal celebrations. Yet without written records, the precise nature of these rituals is speculative. Were they tied to agricultural cycles, marking sowing and harvest? Were they expressions of social cohesion, demonstrating the power and unity of the community? Or were they conduits for spiritual engagement, attempts to commune with forces unseen, as the Neolithic mind sought to order the cosmos and human life within it? The sheer scale of Avebury also raises questions about technology and logistics. Moving stones weighing tens of tons across uneven terrain without modern machinery required ingenuity and coordination. Some scholars hypothesize the use of timber rollers, sledges, or even lubricated tracks, yet the precise methods remain uncertain. How did these prehistoric people organize labor, convey knowledge, and maintain precision across such monumental endeavors? And what motivated them to do so in a society with no written language, relying solely on memory, tradition, and communal instruction? Adding to the mystery are the nearby avenues of paired stones, such as the West Kennet Avenue, which appear to connect Avebury to other ritual sites in the region. These alignments, stretching over kilometers, hint at movement along designated pathways, possibly processional routes used during ceremonies. Did participants traverse these avenues in timed rituals, following celestial cues or the rhythms of the seasons? Or were these paths symbolic, representing metaphysical journeys between the realms of the living and the dead, the ordinary and the sacred? The stones themselves are often carved with cup marks, grooves, and other subtle symbols, their significance lost to time. Were these marks functional, aiding in construction or alignment, or were they symbolic, encoding stories, cosmology, or spiritual practices? Some researchers propose that the carvings may represent a form of prehistoric communication, a visual language that reinforced communal identity or transmitted knowledge across generations. Yet interpretations remain conjectural, as the meaning encoded in stone is both tangible and elusive. Avebury also invites reflection on the interplay between permanence and impermanence. The stones, immovable and enduring, contrast with the ephemeral human presence, rituals, gatherings, and daily life long vanished. Yet traces of this human activity persist, echoing through archaeology, oral tradition, and the very placement of the megaliths. How did the builders conceive of legacy? Were these stones meant to endure as markers of culture, as conduits for spiritual energy, or as monuments to human ingenuity? Modern analysis, including geophysical surveys, excavation, and landscape studies, continues to reveal hidden features, subsurface pits, ditches, and smaller standing stones that suggest a more intricate arrangement than what is visible on the surface. Each discovery adds depth to our understanding, yet simultaneously amplifies the mystery. How complete is our picture of Avebury? What remains buried beneath the grass, obscured by centuries of erosion and human interference, waiting to challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding of Neolithic life? Walking among the massive stones today, one is struck by the duality of Avebury. Its monumental scale is overwhelming, yet the site remains intimate, a space where human presence and natural environment converge. The wind whispers across the standing stones, and the changing light animates their weathered surfaces, reminding us that this was a living landscape, shaped by human hands, yet in constant dialogue with the natural world. Could the builders of Avebury have envisioned how future generations would perceive their work? Or was the monument meant solely for those who walked its spaces centuries ago? Avebury also prompts broader reflection on human ambition and belief. Its construction required coordination, knowledge of materials, and social cohesion. It demanded imagination, foresight, and ritual intent. And yet, despite millennia of study, its true purpose remains inaccessible, encoded only in the arrangement of stone, the subtle curves of the landscape, and the traces of human activity left behind. How much of our interpretation projects modern assumptions onto a prehistoric worldview fundamentally different from our own? What did the builders understand about life, death, and cosmology that we may never fully grasp? Even folklore contributes to the site's enigmatic aura. Legends of giants, mystical energies, and the protective power of stones have circulated for centuries, adding layers of narrative that blend cultural memory with imagination. Are these stories echoes of ancient belief systems, distorted across generations, or imaginative attempts by later communities to explain a monument whose original purpose was forgotten? Either way, they underscore a human impulse to find meaning, to connect the present to a distant, shadowed past. Avebury challenges the observer to contemplate scale, intention, and the passage of time. It is a site of contradictions, monumental yet intimate, enduring yet enigmatic, earthly yet potentially celestial in purpose. Each standing stone raises questions that cannot be answered definitively, each concentric circle a reminder that some aspects of human history are preserved not in text, but in the spatial and symbolic imagination of our ancestors. What did the builders of Avebury see when they looked at the horizon? What patterns did they observe in the stars, the seasons, and the land that guided their monumental work? And what fragments of their knowledge and belief persist, hidden within the stones, waiting for patient eyes to discern them? In contemplating Avebury, we are drawn into a dialogue with a civilization both familiar and foreign. Its stones remind us that human societies have long sought to anchor themselves within the cosmos, to give form to belief, and to shape the landscape as a reflection of identity, spirituality, and community. And yet, for all the study, mapping, and interpretation, Avebury retains its mystery. It challenges assumptions, invites speculation, and demands humility. The past is vast, intricate, and often beyond comprehension. As shadows lengthen across the Wiltshire plains and the wind stirs the grass around these towering stones, Avebury remains silent, monumental, and compelling. It invites us to imagine, to question, and to embrace uncertainty. How much of its story will remain forever elusive, locked within the stones, the earth, and the spaces between them? What can we learn from a site that is at once familiar to the human imagination and forever outside our complete understanding? Avebury, like the sites that precede it in our journey, reminds us that some mysteries endure not because we fail to search, but because they are meant to inspire awe, curiosity, and reflection for generations yet to come. From the sweeping landscapes of Avebury, where colossal stones echo the ingenuity and ritual sophistication of Neolithic Britain, we journey southward to the eastern Mediterranean, to the ancient port city of Alexandria, where the meeting of land and sea has long created a crossroads of commerce, culture, and history. Here, beneath layers of sand, soil, and centuries of urban growth, archaeologists uncovered a find that has captivated the modern imagination: the Black Sarcophagus, a monolithic tomb that seems to guard secrets as dark and enigmatic as the stone from which it was carved. The sarcophagus rests within a shallow trench near the historic district of Alexandria, its sheer size immediately commanding attention. Measuring more than 2 meters in length, 1.5 meters in width, and weighing nearly 30 tons, the tomb is carved from a single slab of black granite, its surfaces weathered yet undeniably formidable. Its color, almost absorbing the light that touches it, gives the impression of an object deliberately intended to evoke awe, perhaps even trepidation. The lid, sealed with precision, bears a slight depression, as though inviting the imagination to consider what might lie beneath. Standing beside it, one senses the presence of history compressed into stone, a silent testament to lives, rituals, and events that have long been concealed from human eyes. Radiocarbon dating and stylistic analysis suggest that the Black Sarcophagus dates to approximately the Ptolemaic period, around 250 BC, situating it within an era when Alexandria flourished as a hub of Greek and Egyptian culture. It was a time of intellectual brilliance, when the city's library sought to gather all human knowledge, and its port connected distant lands across the Mediterranean and beyond. Yet, despite the historical richness of the period, the sarcophagus remains a puzzle. Its size and material indicate a burial of immense importance, yet no inscriptions or hieroglyphs clearly identify its occupant. Who was considered worthy of such a monumental resting place, and why has their identity been obscured or lost to time? The first striking feature of the sarcophagus is its construction. Carved from a single block of dense black granite, its weight alone raises questions about the technology and labor available to its creators. Transporting, shaping, and sealing such a stone would have required extraordinary skill, coordination, and ingenuity. How did the Ptolemaic Egyptians manage such a feat? Was this the work of specialized artisans, perhaps drawing upon techniques inherited from earlier pharaonic traditions? Or was it a singular project commissioned for a figure of exceptional status, whose resources allowed for such monumental ambition? When excavators first opened the sarcophagus, they were met not with gold or treasure, but with a substance that only deepened the mystery, a thick, dark liquid in which human remains lay partially preserved. The liquid's nature was unclear at first, sparking both scientific analysis and intense speculation. Some suggested it was a form of resin or water that had collected over time, while others proposed more dramatic theories involving preservation techniques lost to history. The presence of this fluid, however, created an almost cinematic aura around the tomb, amplifying the sense that it was not merely a container for the dead, but a vessel designed to interact with its contents in a way that we have yet to fully understand. The skeletal remains themselves added to the intrigue. Fragmentary but discernible, they suggested the burial of one or more individuals, yet questions arose about their identities, social status, and cause of death. Forensic studies indicated signs of decomposition influenced by the liquid, but the precise chemical composition remained partially unknown. Could this substance have been a form of ancient embalming unknown elsewhere, a formula designed to slow decay or preserve specific features? Or was it a natural phenomenon, the result of centuries of groundwater interacting with the granite's properties? Modern science provides hints, yet definitive answers remain elusive. From the sweeping landscapes of Avebury, where colossal stones echo the ingenuity and ritual sophistication of Neolithic Britain, we journey southward to the eastern Mediterranean, to the ancient port city of Alexandria, where the meeting of land and sea has long created a crossroads of commerce, culture, and history. Here, beneath layers of sand, soil, and centuries of urban growth, archaeologists uncovered a find that has captivated the modern imagination: the Black Sarcophagus, a monolithic tomb that seems to guard secrets as dark and enigmatic as the stone from which it was carved. The sarcophagus rests within a shallow trench near the historic district of Alexandria, its sheer size immediately commanding attention. Measuring more than 2 meters in length, 1.5 meters in width, and weighing nearly 30 tons, the tomb is carved from a single slab of black granite, its surfaces weathered yet undeniably formidable. Its color, almost absorbing the light that touches it, gives the impression of an object deliberately intended to evoke awe, perhaps even trepidation. The lid, sealed with precision, bears a slight depression, as though inviting the imagination to consider what might lie beneath. Standing beside it, one senses the presence of history compressed into stone, a silent testament to lives, rituals, and events that have long been concealed from human eyes. Radiocarbon dating and stylistic analysis suggest that the Black Sarcophagus dates to approximately the Ptolemaic period, around 250 BC, situating it within an era when Alexandria flourished as a hub of Greek and Egyptian culture. It was a time of intellectual brilliance, when the city's library sought to gather all human knowledge, and its port connected distant lands across the Mediterranean and beyond. Yet, despite the historical richness of the period, the sarcophagus remains a puzzle. Its size and material indicate a burial of immense importance, yet no inscriptions or hieroglyphs clearly identify its occupant. Who was considered worthy of such a monumental resting place, and why has their identity been obscured or lost to time? The first striking feature of the sarcophagus is its construction. Carved from a single block of dense black granite, its weight alone raises questions about the technology and labor available to its creators. Transporting, shaping, and sealing such a stone would have required extraordinary skill, coordination, and ingenuity. How did the Ptolemaic Egyptians manage such a feat? Was this the work of specialized artisans, perhaps drawing upon techniques inherited from earlier pharaonic traditions? Or was it a singular project commissioned for a figure of exceptional status, whose resources allowed for such monumental ambition? When excavators first opened the sarcophagus, they were met not with gold or treasure, but with a substance that only deepened the mystery, a thick, dark liquid in which human remains lay partially preserved. The liquid's nature was unclear at first, sparking both scientific analysis and intense speculation. Some suggested it was a form of resin or water that had collected over time, while others proposed more dramatic theories involving preservation techniques lost to history. The presence of this fluid, however, created an almost cinematic aura around the tomb, amplifying the sense that it was not merely a container for the dead, but a vessel designed to interact with its contents in a way that we have yet to fully understand. The skeletal remains themselves added to the intrigue. Fragmentary but discernible, they suggested the burial of one or more individuals, yet questions arose about their identities, social status, and cause of death. Forensic studies indicated signs of decomposition influenced by the liquid, but the precise chemical composition remained partially unknown. Could this substance have been a form of ancient embalming unknown elsewhere, a formula designed to slow decay or preserve specific features? Or was it a natural phenomenon, the result of centuries of groundwater interacting with the granite's properties? Modern science provides hints, yet definitive answers remain elusive. Speculative theories have naturally emerged around the Black Sarcophagus, some rooted in history, others in imagination. Certain commentators have suggested associations with alchemical or mystical practices, the preservation of knowledge, or the entombment of individuals of extraordinary significance, perhaps even rulers whose deeds were not recorded in surviving texts. While mainstream archaeology emphasizes evidence-based interpretation, the tomb's evocative appearance, unusual contents, and enigmatic origin invite the human mind to speculate. Could this have been more than a resting place? Could it have served as a vessel of ritual power, a repository of knowledge, or a deliberate warning for future generations? The Black Sarcophagus also challenges contemporary perceptions of ancient Alexandria. We often imagine the city as a center of learning, philosophy, and commerce. Yet this tomb reminds us that it was also a place of profound mystery, where life and death, ambition and ritual, intersected in ways that are still incompletely understood. How did the people of this city conceptualize mortality, power, and the afterlife? How many other monuments, submerged archives, or enigmatic constructions lie hidden beneath the sands and streets, holding stories we have yet to uncover? Standing beside the tomb today, one cannot escape a sense of both grandeur and quiet dread. Its black granite absorbs light, its sealed lid conceals what was once living, and the liquid within shimmers with questions that defy resolution. It is at once a work of human craftsmanship and an artifact of human mystery, bridging the worlds of archaeology, history, and imagination. How did its builders conceive of permanence? And what did they hope to communicate across centuries, knowing that the future might witness their creation without ever understanding it fully? The Black Sarcophagus of Alexandria is more than a tomb. It is a monument to uncertainty, a challenge to historians, archaeologists, and the curious alike. It exemplifies the way human ambition, ritual, and creativity converge to produce artifacts that both inform and confound, leaving us to navigate the delicate boundary between evidence and wonder. As researchers continue to study the liquid, the bones, and the surrounding site, each discovery raises as many questions as it answers. What truths lie concealed in this black granite, and how much of our understanding will remain forever provisional, suspended between knowledge and speculation? In contemplating the sarcophagus, we are reminded of a broader human impulse, the desire to preserve, to monumentalize, and to communicate across the gulf of time. Yet even in the face of such effort, identity, intent, and meaning can be obscured, leaving only traces for future generations to interpret. What messages, warnings, or secrets were intended by its creators? And what might the Black Sarcophagus of Alexandria still teach us about the lives, beliefs, and ambitions of those who lived thousands of years ago, in a city where history and mystery have always walked hand in hand?